say to all the fans of WLW, y'all keep on supporting this organization because they're going to be the next big thing.
Welcome, everybody, to WLW Amplify, brought to you, of course, by World League Wrestling, as I like to say, the house that Harley Race built.
Oh, yeah.
I'm CT Harrison, along with my good pal over here, Martin Kadich. Great show coming up today, but first I want to say thank you to all of our great sponsors at World League Wrestling. Jim Chineri Ford in Moscow Mills, Jim Chineri Chevy in Troy, Impact Digital Designs, CT Harrison Business Solutions, and Traveling East Productions. Yes.
Well, we got to say thank you to all you dads out there.
It's Father's Day.
Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day.
That just means that, later on this afternoon, maybe this evening, pop up a video you like, sit down with Dad, and watch wrestling.
Ooh, go back and watch some stuff. Yeah. I know a great place they can do that, too. They can go to our World League Wrestling YouTube channel.
That's right.
Or they can go to www.worldleaguewrestlingtv.com.
And I guarantee you're going to see some great matches there.
Absolutely. A lot of stuff going on this week.
Boy, ain't there.
I'm not going to address the elephant in the room as to, the stuff going on. I'm just going to say that I think just prayers for everybody involved.
Exactly.
That's just it, man. That's all I'm going to say. That's it.
Try to be positive about as much as I can myself. So,
So moving forward from that, some debuts this week.
I saw that.
Which one were you talking about earlier?
I was talking about the zombie woman.
Abaddon
in AEW. Looks real creepy. Be afraid to ref her. I think she might bite my leg.
Yeah. Anybody who crawls out of the back through a tunnel on all fours to the ring scares the living daylights out of me.
Right. And then
I married a woman like that once.
Once, as Joe Piscopo would say.
Once.
She didn't seem to have eyelids. The makeup job was really well done. I'm not a big horror genre guy, so I did not stick around to watch the match.
Oh, no? It was a good match. The other debut, very same show, Riki Starks.
Oh, and what a debut.
Riki Starks, chosen by Arn Anderson and Cody Rhodes to go against Cody for that TNT championship. Great debut by Riki Starks. Of course, he was television champion at NWA.
That's right.
Came to AEW, and what a great.
Well, I think they stole the show. I mean, I didn't see every match, but it's hard to top. I mean, just a testament to how great a match it was. They signed him immediately after.
Yeah, I think, and that was, from what I understand, that was his tryout match. So, and then, ta-da, he gets signed.
Well, it just shows if you want to grab it, you got to reach for it.
It's there. And what a great job by Cody in that match, as well as Riki. I was a Riki fan at AEW. I liked Riki Starks. His persona, I really liked. And then seeing him wrestle someone the caliber of Cody Rhodes, I enjoyed that very, very much.
Yeah, I saw him quite a few times on the independent circuit earlier on, and you could always tell this kid had talent. I mean, and he could carry a match for himself too. So when you put him there with Cody, fireworks.
Absolutely. Matt Riddle.
That's right. Matt Riddle made his SmackDown debut
against AJ Styles and won that match clean.
And it's just another one, here it is, another up-and-comer gets to come up and they show it. They go after that brass ring and they grab it. They don't just kind of give you a little token effort. I'm going to do the best that I can. Mm-hmm. That just like Riki Starks, he went in there and he did the thing. And he got the win. AJ Styles is no pushover in the ring. So,
AJ Styles right now, and this is just my opinion, and I'm entitled to it. One of the best wrestlers in the game today.
Making a case for his position in ever.
Oh, without a doubt, and still has a few years left in him, I believe.
Oh, certainly.
You know, and the 5th and final episode of the Undertaker's documentary. Spoiler alert: if you haven't watched it by now, that's your own fault. But announced at the end of the documentary that that was it.
I believe he said it was time for this cowboy to ride into the sunset or something like that.
Yeah. So, but, you know, if we never see The Undertaker back in a ring again, because in this business, and we know especially with WWE, never say never, I get that. But if it is never, and we don't ever see him back in a WWE ring again, I'm good with that, because 30 plus years, what a legacy. Locker room leader, has spent time in Florida at the center there, teaching and working with the new ones coming up. What a guy to give back, and what a guy to sit under a learning tree with.
Right,
So,
you know, he I'm sure he'll have a lasting effect even if he's outside the ring. Just the advice that I'm sure he can give.
right.
The knowledge he has of how to navigate the byways of wrestling.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
he's done it all. He's been everywhere.
Now, the biggest news of all, the biggest news that I can give you today, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't known by now, if you haven't seen the video by now, if you have not looked on our page for a little bit, Leland Raced announced July 11th, right at the Race Wrestling Arena, we are back. World League Wrestling will be back July 11th.
I'm so excited. You know how excited I am.
Dude.
I'm sure most people listening right now know exactly how excited I am about this. I've been itching just to get back in and train.
And that's going to
So-
be exciting too. We get back to training this next week, and I cannot wait to walk in that arena and see everybody again. It makes me so happy. So I don't even have words to express just what it means to get back in there with everybody. Of course, I don't get in the ring, of course, but, you know,
Just the atmosphere.
to get back to production side of things, to get back to seeing all of our performers and all of our athletes, it's home, it's family. Our fans understand that. I'm really sure they do. We have some of the greatest fans that I know of, and it's just, I'm so excited. July 11th, and I'm guessing everything's still the same. Doors open at 6, bell time's at 7. And from what I hear, the boys are planning a tailgate.
That's, they said whenever. So I'm
Okay, then I'm saying it. Boys, plan a tailgate. How's that? Anyhow, on today's episode, man, what a guest we have. What a guest we have. A former WLW Heavyweight Champion, 2 times, I believe.
That's right.
And a former WWE NXT star. He was a tag team champion as well. In WLW.
Yes.
Brian Breaker is here with us, and we got the chance to sit down with him this week and talk. And what a great interview! What a great guy to sit and talk to. Enjoyed it very much. I think you guys are going to enjoy it. Marty, unless you've got anything you want to add, man, I mean, we could get into it.
Other than it was a great conversation, he told us a lot of cool stories, and it was a lot of fun, and I'm sure that these guys listening in are going to have a lot of fun too. And just like July 11th, I'm ready to get to it.
Oh, without a doubt. Let's say we get to it.
Let's do it.
All right. WWE fans, I give you Brian Breaker. Breaker, welcome to the show.
How's it going, guys?
It's going great, man. It's good to hear from you.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me on.
What have you been doing these days?
Well, I've kind of taken a break from the world of pro wrestling the last couple of years and kind of just doing my podcast and kind of getting back to, I guess, more of a normal life and all that stuff. But, wrestling's always a part of who we are in some way, shape, or form. So right now I'm kind of enjoying taking a break from it. But you never know. I might dive in sometime down the road. Who knows?
It's never completely out of you, though, is it?
Well, that's why I never said retire, right? Because it's part of who we are, or otherwise we wouldn't spend all the time that we do, watching it, studying it, being a part of it, because there's nothing like financially that's so great about independent pro wrestling most of the time, but most of us still do it because we have passion for it. And so much like you guys doing this show, it's passion, right? It's part of who we are. So it's hard to just completely push that to the side because it's such a huge part of our lives and who we are.
It's a labor of love, is what I like to say.
Absolutely.
So let's go back to the beginning. Did you train anywhere before coming to Harley's place? Or was that your first?
Well, I mean, it technically wasn't my first place, but it's the first place I would claim, if that makes any sense.
I got you.
I trained briefly. I'm from, the Tulsa, Oklahoma area. I trained briefly at a place here. I was about 19 years old, didn't really know, I think like most people that, if there's young aspiring wrestlers listening to this is, a good life lesson for you guys, do your research. I didn't really know what wrestling schools were around. Knew a place in town that trained people, and they had a local show. So I thought, well, that's where I'll go. And of course, the shows did not draw very well. The training was subpar at best. But at the time, you don't really always know that because even though you're a super fan or whatever, you don't really know what it takes to be a good performer in the ring. I knew it wasn't great, but at the same time, it was like I get an opportunity to get the ring and do a little bit, so that's fun. And like most carny type wrestling promotions, I show up one day and nobody's there.
Wow.
So yeah, it was kind of one of those things. I didn't pay a ton of money, but I did pay some money, so that was disappointing. But I was like, well, that sucks. But I also knew that getting to train one day a week, a few hours before the show, wasn't going to be sufficient enough to become a good performer. At least not to the level I wanted to get to. And because I always knew back then, I was like, I don't really want to be like the guy that just does small local indies and is happy with that. I want to go as far as I can. And so I did a little bit of research, and I knew about the Harley Race Academy, WLW, but I didn't really put together. It's like, well, that's not really all that far. Tulsa to Missouri is a few-hour drive. It's not that bad. So I found the WLW Academy, which was in Eldon, Missouri at the time. Made some phone calls, and of course I'm talking to Harley and BJ on the phone, which, I mean, Harley's voice, as you guys know, is very distinct. It's very obvious who that is. So nerve-wracking conversation, to say the least. And I was like, wow, that's the man himself. Yeah, and so they were doing a WLW camp at the time in the fall, and Pro Wrestling Noah was going to be there, and a representative of WWE was going to be there. And right away, that told me, I was like, well, this is not like just some carny wrestling promotion. This is like a legitimate place that I can get legitimate training if I really want to do this for real, for a job, which was my goal at the time. So this was 2006, and me and a friend actually did that camp, and Pro Wrestling Noah representatives were there, and Simon Dean, who was with WWE at the time, was there. And it was a great experience. I knew at that point, and this is also too, the two of the guys that were kind of helping train me at the place in Tulsa, they were at the camp. Coincidentally, didn't know they were going to be there. They just happened to show up. And they were two of the worst guys at that entire camp. So that was a huge, eye-opener moment. Yeah, huge light bulb moment. I was like, okay, if they're not very good, how can they possibly make me good? Like, that's just,
So
again, and go ahead. I'm sorry.
So that brings me to Harley, period. You get into Eldon, you start actually training, and after you had been to this other place and you got in with Harley, were you surprised at how much Harley changed in your technique and what you were doing at that time? Like, changed your the way your training and the things that you were doing?
Sort of. Now, I
like the bad habits, I guess. Like, I guess I'm talking about, like, maybe bad habits that you had gotten in the other place, or maybe things that were taught wrong.
Well, so that's where it's kind of interesting. I told him that I did train a little bit, but I told him I was also like, I kind of want to be a blank canvas and start from the ground up, because I don't know if they taught me anything that's even right. Now, here's the good part. They taught me so little that I really had no habits to break, because there was not a whole lot of teaching done, to be totally honest. And I wasn't there for a very long time, maybe 2 months, but that was like once a week for 2 months. 8 training sessions is not much. So when I started full time with WLW after I did the camp, that's when it was like very, very obvious to me, like, there's so much to this industry. That's not like you go get trained and then you're just good. It's, you got to learn basics, you got to learn fundamentals, you got to learn all the little details, and then you constantly learn. I would see guys who've been wrestling for 10 years. You guys interviewed Beer City Bruiser a while back. He is a prime example of that. He came in with, I think, 7 or 8 years experience already, and they're critiquing his matches and making him a better performer. So that was another indicator to me. It's like, there's so much to learn in this industry that you're never really going to stop learning. And that was when I realized that this is definitely the place I need to be, and be here multiple days a week, several hours a day, doing as many different things as I possibly can to try to learn and to be better, to try to get somewhere. Because I think it's easy to, in wrestling, to sometimes take the easy way on certain things, and that's not what I wanted to do. And so when I got to where I was comfortable and started learning and stuff, that's when, more of the camps started happening, and working shows and doing extra work for WWE, and started to realize, like, okay, I actually do know what I'm doing, so that I can, now that I have a good foundation, I can start building upon that and becoming a better performer.
So what was it like actually getting to work with Harley?
Oh, it was invaluable for sure. Especially when I got there full time was 2007, and he was still pretty hands-on at that time. Like, he was there every day. He wasn't in the ring or anything, but he was there. And anytime we were like, hey boss, would you mind watching a match, or would you mind watching something? He was always down to watch. He would sit there and he would talk with you. He would discuss things with you. And I know for me personally, it was very intimidating to talk to him early on, because of just the presence that he had. It took me a while before I got comfortable where I could just go have a conversation with the guy. But so I do regret not getting more conversations with him, but I'm also very glad that, the later part when I was there, 2010 through like 2012, that I was able to kind of sit down and just talk with him all the time.
You and Leland Race participated in the World Tag League.
That's right. Yeah.
Just not too far back, man. I'd like to hear anything that happened over there. Just what you thought of the matches you had over there, and
the experience alone.
Yeah, the whole experience, because I know there's a lot of young guys here that their dreams are going to Japan, at least for the short amount of times like you did, and like Leland has, and John Webb. That's one of their goals, man. I like to get some of your stuff from Japan for them to hear.
Yeah, for sure. So that particular tour was in 2016, the later part of 2016, and Japan does a lot of these round robin tournaments that you don't really see in Japan in the States anymore. Independent companies may do them, but it's not really something WWE does. But the World Tag League, what it is 2 blocks, and each block has 8 teams. And basically throughout the tour, as you're going through the entire country of Japan, you wrestle each team in a tag team match. So you have 7 matches. And it's a point system. So if you win the match, you get, I think, 1 or 2 points. If you lose, you get 0 points. If it's a draw, it's like half a point or something like that. But basically go through, and like the 2 teams with the most points at the end have like the World Tag League final. and it's like a tournament like that. It was really a great experience. It was a huge honor that they chose me and Leland to be part of, representing WLW #1 and to be part of New Japan's World Tag League, because we got to wrestle some amazing talent over there. We were in the ring with Hiroshi Tanahashi, who's one of the biggest stars in New Japan. We had several matches with War Machine, who are now the Viking Raiders on WWE. Hangman Page, who's now a big star with All Elite Wrestling. So many more. I don't want to leave anyone out. Tetsuya Naito, who's a huge star in New Japan as well. Tenryu, and I'm not Tenryu. I can't think of that guy's name. Tenzan. That's it. Tenzan and Kojima, huge veteran stars in New Japan. We got a tag team match with them. We actually went over on them, which was like a huge shocker to us. And they treated us great. They give you like total creative control in the matches, which is awesome. And we were there for like I think 25 days total, and we did 17 shows in that period. So it was a grueling trip, as you can imagine. A lot of bus time, to the shows, from the shows, hotels, that you're just moving all the time. But such a good time. I absolutely loved my time in Japan. I wish I could have gone more. I knew pretty early on when I went there the first time. It was in 2011 for Pro Wrestling Noah, and I realized, I was like, man, Japan is where I want to go. WWE was a goal, I think, for most people. It probably is, but I knew at that point, I was like, man, Japan's really like that's my jam. That's what I want to do. And I was lucky enough to be able to go a few times, and it was a great time over there.
Well, you brought it up, so let's talk about it. You did get to spend some time in developmental. You did get to go spend some time in NXT. You had matches with Brodus Clay, Xavier Woods, against a tag team that was against, I can't remember who you were with, but also it was against, I believe it was Corey Graves and somebody else. But there was, you had some time down there. What was that like?
Yeah, so like I mentioned before, getting to the WWE system was a goal of mine.
And Kozlov, didn't you have a match with Kozlov?
I did. I had a dark match with him, actually. Yeah, sure did. And like I said, the developmental system was something I wanted to get to. That was my goal at the time. And I got signed in 2012. And what I went to FCW, which was
Florida,
kind of the prelude to what everyone knows as NXT now.
Correct.
And they kind of transitioned to NXT while I was there, but I was still always in the FCW building, which was in Tampa, and they were kind of working on the process of getting to what everyone sees now as the Performance Center, which is in Orlando, and stuff like that. But in that process, they'd kind of stopped doing FCW TV, which was local, Florida television, and they transitioned to doing NXT TV, but it hadn't gotten like popular yet. It was only on like Hulu and international television stations.
Right.
So it's kind of like a secret thing, like within WWE. It was a smaller setting, as people have seen now with Full Sail. But we would do TV like every 2 or 3 weeks there, and we were doing live events around Florida and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I got to wrestle some really good guys down there. I mean, I had a couple of singles matches with Roman Reigns, which is kind of crazy to think where he's gone to now. Corey Graves, Xavier Woods, Big E is another guy. Tyler Breeze, Rusev, Eric Rowan, Luke Harper.
I think he was Alexander Rusev at the time.
Alexander Rusev, that's right. I mean, and so many others. I don't want to leave anyone out because I wrestled a ton of guys. Not to mention I trained with so many. I got a couple of matches on NXT TV, so if anyone wants to type in Brandon Traven in the WWE Network, there's a couple of matches on there that you can find if you're so interested. But yeah, it ended up not working out, and I was let go in 2013. But I think it was the right call. I wasn't happy there. It wasn't really what I was expecting. And I see a lot of guys who are there for long periods of time, and they don't, like, their career doesn't really go the way they want it to. And I kind of saw that for myself and realized, I was like, I'm not happy here. And I was happy they let me go because about 2 years later, I got to do a tour again with Pro Wrestling Noah. And then a year after that is when I went to New Japan. And like I said, I had way more fun going to Japan than I did with WWE. So
New Japan
for a reason, but
New Japan is a totally different ball game.
Sure.
Like the training there and the dojo there is like, you don't, that's some training you're not going to get anywhere.
It's not for everybody, for sure. It is very,
being a young boy is tough, but you can gain respect.
Oh yeah, I mean, I saw a young boy. This is no lie. Leland can confirm this. He was there. I won't mention who he was because he's a pretty legitimate star over there now. But he was in the ring training before the New Japan show, and he got in trouble, and they made him go to the side of the building and do squats, and he probably did 1,000 squats, and I'm not exaggerating that number. I know at one point I saw him over there doing squats, so I asked another young boy, I was like, what happened? He goes, oh, he veteran's not happy. And I'm like, oh, he pissed someone off. They're like, yeah. I'm like, oh, okay. And so I didn't say anything. I walk in the locker room, do whatever, go to the bathroom, eat a snack, whatever, come back out 30, 45 minutes later, he's still doing squats. He has a pile of sweat around him.
Wow.
And so I asked him, I said, what did he do? And they were like, oh, he was doing his workouts, but he didn't have a happy expression on his face. I was like, that's it? That's what he did? He's like, yeah. And so if that's telling, I mean, very telling of what the training is like over there. He just didn't look thrilled to be there that day. And because of that, you're going to do a ton of squats. So the training is definitely more intense. But at the same time, and most anyone that's wrestled in Japan can tell you, their worst guy is probably better than most places' best guy because they have a top-notch roster. Everybody can go, and it makes you realize that you need to really step up your game to be a star over there because they are the real deal.
So, okay, let's take a look at some things in World League Wrestling. First of all, World League Wrestling Tag Team Champion with Den Timur. Most people know him now as Beer City Bruiser.
That's right.
How was that? How was it working with him?
It was great. I was very early on. I had just debuted like maybe 6 months before.
2008, I think, 2009.
Yeah. And so if I remember correctly, he was actually teaming with another guy who ended up getting hurt and kind of couldn't do shows for a while. So they kind of slid me in that spot. We started teaming. And then next thing you know, we won the tag titles, which was, a little early in my career to be winning titles and stuff, which I thought was awesome. And, teaming with Bruiser was so beneficial to me in so many ways because he was the guy, and everyone helped, but he was the guy that would tell me everything after the match. Here's what you did good. Here's what you did bad. Here's what you need to do better. But also, too, being in there in the ring with me, he can give me direction as the match is happening. And I see a lot of guys nowadays, and this just might be a sign of the times, I'm not sure, but a lot of guys nowadays, when you give them constructive criticism, they take it wrong, and you really shouldn't. You should take that well. I always try to point out, like, what he did. Here's the good, here's the bad, here's how you can be better. But ultimately, this is what I thought, because that's how you improve as a performer. So having him there while I'm in the match was so invaluable. And Trevor Murdoch is actually another guy that did that, because me and him actually tagged together in my first pro wrestling Noah tour in 2011. So having Trevor there, who at that time had WWE experience, plus had been to Japan several times and everything like that, and
he's a total Harley guy.
Yeah, absolutely. And he was good about. He also looked out for me, which is something that some people don't do, and people may not know that, but he made sure, because I was 24, 25 at the time, I was pretty young and very new to the business. He made sure no one took advantage of me. Like, he made sure that if he thought someone was going to rough me up a little bit, he's like, nope. He would tag right in and start throwing down like Trevor does, because that's
Trevor.
The guy he is. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And he's and of course he might jump on me a little bit at the back. Don't you let guys do that to you? But that's how he is. He makes sure that because I was a Harley guy like him, he watched out for me, which I'm always grateful for that. But yeah, like tagging with Bruiser in that time, we didn't get to tag too long, because I think shortly in like 2009 is when he moved back to Wisconsin. But it was a great time, and I learned so much from that, and I was able to pass a lot of that knowledge on to the next generation.
What was the locker room like back then?
Like when I first got there? a lot different because a lot of those guys ended up kind of leaving pretty early on. Like you mentioned Beer City Bruiser, Denty Moore was there. Darren Wade was the head trainer when I got there. Bonsai, Bao Win, or Ryan Tran. I think you guys talked with him before. Yep. Where he was there. A guy named Johnny Pantoya was there. Wild Wade Chisholm. Dangerous Derek McQuinn. Yeah, let's see. Who else was there? There's Mark Godeker was kind of coming in and out. Trevor was around a little bit. Matt Murphy, he was around kind of doing office stuff when I first got there.
Did you get was Derek Stone around at that time?
No, he wasn't. Derek Stone had already left at that point. I actually haven't been around Derek too many times, but he's a really good guy too. And I know he kind of helped train like a lot. He was Trevor and Matt Murphy and all those guys.
He was the very first trainer at World League Wrestling.
Right.
Yeah. So let's go to October 3rd, 2009, Eldon, Missouri. Superstar Steve.
Yep.
What was that like working with Superstar Steve? And also, that was your shot at the World League Wrestling Heavyweight Championship. What was it like being in the ring and wrestling Superstar Steve?
Superstar Steve is probably known as the guy that can run anybody into the dirt from a conditioning standpoint. And I'm sure you guys have heard that before. And he's proven that to a lot of guys before. So he didn't do it to me that night, as far as I can recall. But Steve was one of those guys that he's probably going to go down as one of my favorite guys to work with, because he would always take it upon himself to watch my matches. And he wasn't in the school every single day. Like, he would show up fairly regularly, but not every day. But he always would watch my matches, always give me critiques and help me along. And I think he had probably gotten word that was the direction they were going that night. And he was gracious enough to, pass the torch like he did, which I always will appreciate, because sometimes some guys don't want to, do the business, as they say. I don't want to say too much, but you know what I mean? Like, they don't want to put themselves out there, because they're like, oh, no, that's not what we're doing. He knew probably ahead of me, and he was cool with it. And like, put everything together to make me look better than I was. And yeah, Steve's a great guy. And I think, is probably the longest tenured WLW guy. And as far as I know, he's been there for a number of years. And, Steve has always been one of those guys, I think, maybe even to a fault. He's the guy that you put in there with like your worst guy, because if anyone can get a match out of this guy, it's Steve. And just I'm serious.
Yeah, no, you're right.
He was that good of a performer.
Well,
but sometimes that's a curse,
Yeah, well, it wouldn't surprise you if I told you that to this day, Steve is still in the locker room working with our young Lions. Steve is still a locker room leader, and Steve is still getting in between the ropes at World League Wrestling today, even to this day.
Oh, yeah. I have no doubt, and I have no doubt if someone got out of line, Steve would get in there and make him feel like he's going to puke or possibly puke. That's the kind of performer he was. Steve spent a ton of time in Japan in the dojo. I think he probably went to Japan more than anyone. I think he was like 13, 14 times, something like that. So he spent a lot of time there, and was just
one of the guys. How was his chops back then?
Oh, they always hurt. Always.
Because I'm going to tell you what, I'm at ringside with the camera constantly, and I'm standing there, and it hurts me to watch it. Two guys in a World League Wrestling ring right now with chops that I never want to feel is Superstar Steve and Leland Race. Those two send chops that just put chills down my spine.
Well, that was a thing with WLW. I got chopped so many times that I couldn't even tell you whose was the worst. But I throw a pretty mean chop myself, which is kind of a WLW trademark, I think. I mean, Trevor, Steve, Darren Wade, his used to just, I feel like I was on fire most of the time. Leland, the chop is it's a welcome to the business moment for sure.
September 18th, 2011. Burlington, Iowa. then known as Jason Jones. You're in the ring with Leland Race for the World League Wrestling Heavyweight Championship. Again.
That's right. Yes, that particular night, that was such an interesting thing. And when you're doing independent wrestling and you're wrestling in all these different towns and different venues, sometimes you don't realize what you're getting into. As you mentioned, it was in Iowa. The promoter that we booked the venue through, we had asked, like, how tall are your ceilings? And that's something that you might not think you have to ask, but you need to because you got a ring. So the ring is probably 3 foot off the ground. The posts are probably 10 feet off the ground.
Yeah, you need at least 16 feet.
I'm 6'3", and in that building, standing in the middle of the ring, I could touch the ceiling without fully extending my arm. So it was a very interesting night of wrestling, to say the least, when pretty much anything involving picking a guy up you couldn't do. Like, if you picked a guy up for a body slam, his feet were touching the ceiling. I think we realized you could do a snap suplex, and that's about as far as that could go. So
this was an all-out brawling match with him.
Oh yeah.
This was all ground and pound. This was all.
I'm pretty sure I got hit with a broomstick that night, which Harley was not happy about. He was not a fan of that type of stuff. But we did what we could, and going out there and wrestling 20 minutes, and having a lot, especially me being a bigger guy, power bombs, press slams, stalling suplexes. That's my go-to. So a lot of that was out the window. So we had to kind of adapt to our environment. I thought we had a pretty fun match that night, and as you mentioned, that was the second time I won the WLW title.
So looking back at your career, what can you say is probably, I don't know, top 3 matches of your career that you really are very proud of?
That's a good question. So I've never been like super like, oh, this certain match did so much for me, because I've always kind of been of the mindset that it's a body of work that as opposed to just one match that makes someone good.
That's why I said give me a top 3 that kind of stand out for you.
A match that I think stands out for me in 2011, it was actually shortly after that match you just referenced. We did a show at the Eldon High School for WLW. It was like our big camp show. William Regal actually was on the card that night. He wrestled Ace Steel. And
oh wow!
I was going to defend the title against pretty much whoever I felt like I could have the best match with, is what direction I was given. And so I asked the boss, Harley, I said, well, can I wrestle Jack Gamble? I want to wrestle him. And at the time, Gamble hadn't been there that long. He was still relatively new. And he was like, really? I'm like, yeah, I want to work him. And so I was granted the match that I wanted. And the reason I wanted that match was because I was on the cusp of, I had already kind of gotten attention from WWE at this point. And I had just wrestled Brodus Clay on a Superstars taping, which was Regal's, Regal put me in that match. So I was on their radar, and I thought I need to have the best match I can possibly have to put an exclamation point on if they should give me a job. So I picked Gamble. We had probably the best match me and him have ever had. Everything clicked well, and the crowd was into it. The match went well. It was like the perfect culmination of what we were trying to do that night. Everyone loved it. And Ricky Steamboat was there. He really put it over. William Regal liked it. So one of the guys that a guy you guys probably know, Simon Gotch, was there. And I asked him what he thought, and he was always very honest, sometimes to a fault, which people didn't like him for, but I always appreciated. He goes, if they weren't going to sign you, they will after that match. That's what he had said. So I was very happy to hear that. And it was exactly what I wanted it to be. It was like, okay, I need that. It's like that. And there's that pressure too. It's like, I need to have the best match I can possibly have to show them that, like, yes, you definitely need to sign me to a deal. And so I felt like that match definitely was right up there. And then also too, another match that stands out, I did a 10-man tag in Pro Wrestling Noah, in 2015, and I got to work with Marufuji quite a bit. And he is a standout for Pro Wrestling Noah and all of Japan, quite frankly. One of the best guys I've ever been in the ring with. The match itself was not very long, but I got to do several things with Marufuji at the end, which I think was also his request. And I was always very happy with that he picked me to have that with, and then like was comfortable with me picking him up and throwing him around and doing all the big guy stuff that I do. So that always stands out because he's easily the best guy I've ever been in the ring with. Just so smooth, like so unbelievably smooth. And if I have to pick a third, I got to, here in Oklahoma, I actually got to do a singles match with Trevor Murdoch, which is the only time we've ever had a singles match. It was for a company called Wrestling for a Cause, which they do a lot of their shows for childhood cancer and things of that nature. And they were bringing Trevor in, and I don't know if he picked me or if they suggested the match, but me and him got to do a singles match. And we had done some tags, we'd done some three-ways, and we teamed together a lot, but we never had a singles match. And I was really happy with how that one turned out too. We got to do a lot of fun stuff, and I was happy. That match was like a proving point, I think, for me, because it's like I'd wrestled him before, but I was still relatively new and very green. This is kind of where I'm like, okay, I've already done my WWE run. I've done some Japan stuff. I want to prove that I can hang with him in the ring. So that was how that went down, and it was a lot of fun.
And now, Breaker, you came up through the Harley training camps and training there. We got a lot of young guys right now who are coming up, and they're looking good, doing great work. I just want to know if you have any advice that you would like to give wrestlers coming into the business now, and possibly, since you do your own podcast, any advice for us new podcasters coming in?
Podcasting. Let's start there. Just have fun with it. That's my advice.
Here we go.
Yeah, it's difficult. It's
and be real.
Yeah. I mean, just have fun, and it's, to me, it's a fun, creative venture. But I try not to take it super seriously. At least for myself, I have fun with it and just enjoy myself doing it. But as far as trying to make money, I can't help you there because I make money off of mine. But
right.
But that's also never been my goal. It's always been to just have fun with it. As far as upcoming wrestlers, never stop trying to learn. If at any point you ever feel like you know everything, you don't. Constantly try to improve your game and try to be the hardest working guy that you could possibly be. Like, hitting the gym, watching tape, getting bookings, training. Like if the school, I don't know what the school schedule's like, but if it's 3 days a week that they're open, be there all 3 days. If it's 4 days a week, be there all 4 days. Be the hardest working guy there, and don't get. And a lot of times in wrestling, people start getting to where they complain and gripe and all this and that, but don't be that guy. Get in there and work hard, bust your butt, do as much as you possibly can do, and improve every facet of your game, whether that's your physique, whether that's your work, whether that's your talking ability, because one of those may be lacking. And if you're a guy that's trying to get somewhere where you can actually make a living at this, try to focus on those three things. So if you're like, well, like I've heard some people say before, I'm not good at promos. Okay, well then practice them. Use your iPhone, record yourself, practice cutting promos, do them multiple times, send them to people that might not just stroke your ego. Record a promo, send it to someone, say, hey, what do you think? And if he's like, that sucks, okay, what can I do to be better at that? Well, maybe try this, maybe try that, then maybe re-record it, send it back. Okay, I made some adjustments. How's this? And he might be like, well, it's a little bit better, but it still sucks. Okay, back to the drawing board, and continue to do that, and do everything you can to be better. I get a lot of guys nowadays, they're like, hey, can we watch my match? And they'll send me a link, and it's like, okay, I don't mind to do that, but if you want to be better, just like, why just send me a match? Like, be like, here's what I want to work on, here's what I'm trying to do, here's what I'm trying to be. Like, try to be personable with people, not just asking for advice. And I get a lot of times, if I'm at a show, mostly here in Oklahoma, people will ask me, hey, what'd you think of the match? And I'll tell them, and then they give me all the excuses for why they did what they did. I'm like, okay, well, I'm just saying, here's what I'm seeing, and that's my opinion. That's not right or wrong necessarily, but this is just what I think.
Well, I mean,
So
if they're going to come up, sorry, man, but if they're going to come up with excuses to what you're saying, then they're not really wanting advice. They're wanting a pat on the back, in my opinion. I mean, that
oftentimes that is the case. Yeah.
You don't ask for how'd I do without expecting to get some kind of criticism back if you really want to get better.
Yeah, and I think sometimes if I'm like, well, here's what I saw, A, B, and C, and if you're like, all right, well, this is what I was going for, but do you have advice on how that can be better? That's one thing. But again, sometimes it's just, I think people want a pat on the back as opposed to, criticism. And, here's the thing. If criticism is something that you don't, react well with, the wrestling business may not be for you.
Yeah. If criticism hurts your feelings, then this ain't the place for you.
Right.
Yeah. So Breaker, thanks for joining us, man. Will you come back again sometime?
This was a blast, guys. Absolutely. Anytime.
All right, bud. Thanks. And we'll, go ahead. How about some shameless plugs? Tell everybody what you want, your podcast, anything you want to plug. Go for it. This is your time to shameless plug.
I'm always up for some shameless plugs. You guys mentioned my podcast before, which I appreciate, Breaker and Bane's Power Hour. It's on every Sunday, wherever you get your podcasts from. And I also have T-shirts if you want to pick up a Brian Breaker shirt over on ProWrestlingTees.com/Brian Breaker. And that's about it.
All right, man. Thanks a lot, and we'll talk to you again real soon.
Yeah, thanks a lot,
I appreciate
man.
it, guys. Thank you.
All right, see ya. Brian Breaker. First of all, I got to say thanks to Breaker for coming on the show. I think that was and for spending time with us. What a great story to tell.
Oh, and he didn't even get halfway through his stories. I mean, he's done so much and been so many places in wrestling.
Yeah.
He's got tons of them, so, we could do another hour talking to him and still be about halfway there, maybe.
Well, I've got his number now. We'll call him again.
It'd definitely be enjoyable to talk to him
I'm
again.
not above that. So, yeah. The big news again, July 11th, World League Wrestling is back in action. Back at the Harley Race Wrestling Arena in Troy, Missouri.
That's right. I'm super excited for this. I can't wait to get up there, officiate some matches. I'm more excited about getting back to practice. I can't lie. I need to get in there and get myself a little bit more ready. I think everybody could. It's been a while since everybody's been on full tilt. So
right.
It's time to get there.
I feel that World League Wrestling, you haven't seen The Last of Us. There were rumors that there was just rumors that were around, and we will prove every single thing wrong.
100%.
Absolutely, because that's not the Harley Race way. That's not our way, and we will come back bigger and stronger than we ever were. And that part I can actually guarantee you. I am not. I have complete faith in this company, complete faith in our wrestlers. It's a complete faith in the people in the front office. Our young Lions. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited to get back and see them again.
That's the bonus right there. Is that down to a man, down to everyone, even Elaney and any other females that come around.
Mm-hmm.
All of us.
Who's come a long way in her reffing.
That's right.
And it's come a long way in her training, her ring training, and is working now as a ref at this time.
Well, she's good too.
She's doing a good job.
I can't say that I've been more proud of anything than watching her just for a little bit of advice, because she didn't need a whole lot of my help. She got there.
Mm-hmm.
She's that goes to the point that I'm making. Nobody, not a single person for World League gives up quickly.
I feel that it's a real tribute to the locker room there, really, to be honest with you, because that is a locker room of World League Wrestling where every guy in there is just so uplifting to the others. They're always they've always got each other's back. They're always helping each other. They're cheering each other on. They're It's just the atmosphere is absolutely amazing and fantastic in that place. From during training to to the shows, and of course the fans make it everything. The fans are everything, man.
Well, they're not giving up either.
No, they have not. They have not at all. The fans have been behind us this whole time. They're itching. They're ready to get back in there. I've heard nothing but just strong emotion about us coming back. So July 11th, again, at the Race Wrestling Arena in Troy, Missouri. Doors open at 6. Bell time is at 7. And hopefully, just hopefully, and this is my hint, boys, we're ready for another one of your tailgate parties out there. And, man, I'm excited.
Right. What a difference a week makes, you know?
Yeah.
Just in the middle of the week, you know, we all found out that we were going to be back at it. And, you know, just like CT said, and just like I've heard echoed throughout everybody I know, we're excited. We're ready. Let's do this.
Let's do this. Again, thank you to our great sponsors at World League Wrestling, Jim Trineri Ford, Moscow Mills, Jim Trineri Chevy in Troy, Missouri, Impact Digital Designs, CT Harrison Business Solutions, Traveling East Productions, and as always, our fantastic fans.
Exactly. Couldn't have said it better myself.
I'll even say kind of half-hearted thank you to Martin Kadich for being here with me and down here in the dungeon.
Not even necessary.
Shows.
This is, like I said a couple of times, this is a labor of love, man.
Yeah,
I love World League. I love the World League fans.
We have done this show each and every time has been done down here in the Traveling East Productions Dungeon Studio during this whole ordeal in the last few months. And you guys have made this a fantastic thing. And so is our guests, of course, some fantastic guests. I can't wait to see who's coming next. I haven't heard yet, but as soon as I know, you'll know, because you guys will be told before I will. I'm certain of that. That'll come out on the. I'll find out by watching the Facebook page myself. So
that's what I do.
Yeah. So I guess let's get out of here, and we'll call it a day. It's been a fantastic Sunday. Happy Father's Day to all you dads out there, and even you single mothers out there playing dad. Happy Father's Day to you as well, for sure, without a doubt. And I will just leave by saying we love you, and there ain't a damn thing you can do about it. We'll see you next Sunday.
Bye.